All right, welcome back to the channel. So, Mikey Garcia exposes Manny Pacquiao ducking Errol Spence Jr. and Terence Crawford for the rest of his career by saying that that Manny Pacquiao is not fighting Conor McGregor next, that he's fighting Mikey Garcia next, and then after that, Manny Pacquiao. If that is true, that means that there is no Manny Pacquiao, Errol Spence. There is no Manny Pacquiao, Terence Crawford, which means that Manny Pacquiao right now is an entire waste of time. Let's talk about that in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel. So in this episode of Fanon's videos, we're going to talk about Manny Pacquiao ducking Errol Spence, ducking Terence Crawford, choosing to pick Mikey Garcia, and then there's a significant chance of him fighting Conor McGregor. Now, since Manny Pacquiao's not fighting in 2020, that tells you that those two fights are in 2021, which tell you what? That those were the only fights in 2021. So if Mikey Garcia and Conor McGregor are the only two fights for Manny Pacquiao in 2021, that means that Errol Spence Jr. and Terence Crawford are not on the menu. If Terence Crawford and Errol Spence Jr. are not on Manny Pacquiao's menu, then unification and undisputed are not on his menu. They are not his concerns, which means that he is officially at 147 pounds, a waste of time. Not that we didn't already know that he was a waste of time, because he just beat somebody who had for the last 2 years been a waste of time. Keith Thurman, but I'll get into that more into the meat of the video. But for right now, let's just suffice it to say that Manny Pacquiao and Mikey Garcia appear to me right now to be birds of a feather flocking together, and they both on that bull. They both on that bullpucky, man. Both of them. Mikey, you look through Mikey Garcia's resume, you look through Manny Pacquiao. Obviously not as much Manny Pacquiao, but there's a good amount of it with Manny Pacquiao. Don't get it wrong. There's a lot of it with Manny Pacquiao too. But Mikey Garcia and Manny Pacquiao, to me, dude, definitely at this stage for Manny Pacquiao, dude, those guys are not no Errol Spence Jr., man. They are not Jermell Charlo. They are not Jamal Charlo. He do not have the attitude that Deontay Wilder had at heavyweight when he was trying to combine all the belts at heavyweight. I don't believe these dudes got the attitude that they're really out there trying to give boxing fans, trying to prove that they are the best fighters. Now, first, and as a result, boxing loses out because once again, do not know who the real champion is. Right now, at 147 pounds, there are 3 champions. There is Manny Pacquiao, there is Errol Spence Jr., and then Terence Crawford. That's it. The three fighters between themselves, if they need to fight each other. They need to fight each other. Manny Pacquiao, now I'm not saying that they all have to fight each other in their next fight, right? Because clearly there's other things that come into play. Right now, we're in the middle of a pandemic. So in the situation in the pandemic, and I just did a video about this with Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury, that is big enough a fight where that fight just has to wait until there's people that can come. It's just that simple. Because both of these guys just got gigantic paydays, right? Both of them made over $10 million. I won't go into they all made over 40, 20, whatever. But we're fairly confident that they made significantly over 10, 15. They made significantly more than $15 million, okay? So that means that provided they don't spend their money like they're complete and utter idiots, they can survive a year without another fight, okay? Manny Pacquiao ain't starving if he don't fight this year. Errol Spence, if he didn't fight this year, wasn't going to be starving. Deontay Wilder's not starving. Tyson Fury's not starving. All of that, right? So they can wait. Now, so don't get me wrong. Even the Mikey Garcia, Manny Pacquiao fight is going to have to wait because that with big guys like Manny Pacquiao, you're gonna need the crowd there. But that makes the problem even worse for me, because they're saying that because if Mikey Garcia is right and those two fights are next, those fights are not going to happen until the middle part of that next year. I think when we were looking at the debate, I didn't make a mistake, but I was like, man, let me hear what all this craziness is about this, election debate that everybody's like, this guy, I'm not going to mention these people's names, but the fact that it was so crazy. So I started sitting down and listening to it, maybe like a few days after it took place. And they were sitting there talking about when a vaccine was going to come up. And they were like, hey man, it's not going to be there till, early summer of 2021. Like early summer of 2021 is July. So now you're talking July 2022. And before there is something that can get out to a lot of people. So how far do you think that is going to push major boxing events? It's going to push it to close to 2022. We'll be looking to getting back into complete normality in 2022, which means dang near all of 2021, all of 2020, and all of 2021 will be shot. Okay? That means ain't no Floyd Mayweather Jr. Ain't no Errol Spence, Terence Crawford happening if Manny Pacquiao goes and fights Mikey Garcia first. Okay? Now, Mikey Garcia is one of these guys that I have lost more followers over. Let me put it this way. I've lost more followers over that I actually care about losing. Because most of the people, I know a lot of people by their names. So I know certain people that left my channel after Mikey Garcia got beat up by Errol Spence Jr. And they didn't like that lot that I had to say about Mikey Garcia, but it's going to continue because once again, this is just another move. This is nonsense, right? Because first of all, Mikey Garcia didn't fight anybody. Didn't fight anybody with a pulse until he got over 30 fights. Okay? Literally that's when he got to maybe a fight before he won his WBO 126-pound belt, right? Then if you look at what he had his title run set multiple years, comes back out. How many times he won the WBC lightweight title, right? Held it for 2 years. You know how many times he defended it? Once. And the only time he did it was against Robert Easter Jr. in a unification fight after Robert Easter Jr. looked vulnerable in 2 separate fights. One fight against Richard Comey and another fight, 3 fights. Richard Comey, Shafikov, and then Javier Fortuna. And when he looked suspect against Javier Fortuna, then and only then did Mikey Garcia say he would take that fight. Did he ever defend that unified belt? No. He went up there to lose to Errol Spence. When he beat Sergey Lipinets for the 140-pound belt, did he ever defend that belt? No, he never defended that belt. Never defended the belt. He held the WBC lightweight belt and fought multiple times without defending it. Won the WBC belt, lightweight belt, fought at 142 against Adrian Bronner. Fought at 140 against Sergey Lipinets. It's just, you get my point. Mikey Garcia is just one smoke and mirror show after the other. Now, is he an excellent fighter? Yes, he is. He's a highly skilled fighter. But if he really wanted to prove that he was the best, that he was one of the best fighters in the world, and he wasn't just trying to cash out and look to see if he could sneak Errol Spence Jr.'s fight from him, because that's what he's doing. Manny Pacquiao was in the ring, was ringside for Errol Spence Jr. versus Mikey Garcia. I find it just a little bit ironic that it is Mikey Garcia that winds up with the Manny Pacquiao fight and not Errol Spence Jr. I find that just hilarious, and it is a terrible look for Manny Pacquiao. You cannot, of all the things that people have said about Manny Pacquiao, I've never heard Manny Pacquiao referred to as a duck. But now he is firmly planted on you ducked Errol Spence Jr. There ain't no excuse for Mikey Garcia fight with Errol Spence Jr. sitting there. There's not. You're not going to sell more tickets with Mikey Garcia. It's not a bigger fight with Mikey Garcia. Mikey Garcia is not a unification fight. What Mikey Garcia is Mikey Garcia is a former 126-pounder. He's a former 126-pounder that Manny Pacquiao thinks he can beat that Manny Pacquiao thinks he can beat. And Mikey Garcia thinks that Manny Pacquiao is a former 126 pounder that he can beat, right? But he ain't willing though. But like I said, neither one of these dudes, and this is why I'm telling you, they both look bad in this to me. Manny won't fight Errol, won't fight Terence, and Mikey Garcia won't go anywhere near Josh Taylor, won't mention the name, and won't go anywhere near Jose Ramirez other than to train with him in the gym. Anyway, I am not the biggest fan of Mikey Garcia. Manny Pacquiao, dude, if you're not going to fight Errol Spence Jr., retire. Okay? I know that boxing is a decentralized, sport, and that any promoter, if you get a promotional license in a state, then you can set up your own little mini league and all that. But man, for real, some of you guys just need to stop, dude. These things are Manny Pacquiao, dude, is a great fighter, and I love seeing him fight, dude. But I would not, if Mikey Garcia and Manny Pacquiao are fighting in a non-title fight, I would love it. But for the fact that it is for a belt, and Mikey Garcia could possibly come up with a WBA belt at 147 pounds and sneak past everybody else with that fight, it just doesn't sit right to me, man. And in my opinion, they both look bad. But anyway, that's my take. You let me know what you think in the comment section. Thank you guys so much for your support in the channel. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you to everybody that supports in the Patreon, in the channel members, supporting the live streams for non-live, through the super chats and the Cash App. Thank you guys so much. All of the money that is being earned from this channel is definitely going to something a significant portion of it is going to a new cause that just came up. Won't be able to tell you what you guys what that is, but it is fairly personal. Thank you very, very much for your support, and thank you. That's all I can say. With that, I'm out. Peace.